United are the champions of Europe again.
Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. I'm joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. You?
I'm not too bad at all. Not too bad. Now we've had some big growth on the channel recently, which we're very appreciative for. So we're very close to 100 subscribers now. So if you do enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. We've got plenty more content coming up. But without any further ado, City 2, Manchester United 0. We're out of the Carabao Cup in the semi-final again. It's the title of the video, Henry. I'll ask your opinion on it. Are we serial bottlers?
Well, see, if you'd asked me that question yesterday, I'd have had a completely different answer, because yesterday, I don't know, I was kind of furious, I'm not going to lie. It's frustrating, so frustrating to see us do this again in a big cup game. And people saying, oh yeah, it's only the Carabao Cup, whatever. Well, they weren't saying that before the game because it was a massive game. It was really important. Trophies are what defines managers, and Solskjaer will be defined on whether he wins trophies or whether he doesn't. And if he doesn't soon, then it will come into question. The board will question whether he's good enough to get the highest accolades for the club. So I'm not going to say we're serial bottlers, because I think that's a bit excessive, because I think serial bottlers are Spurs who haven't won a trophy in like 12 years. But they've got a chance to do it now, and lo and behold, Mourinho's going to win a trophy before Solskjaer does. So, I'm not going to say we're serial bottlers, but it's a weird feeling to have at the moment, where I'm just kind of a bit speechless with the game. There was nothing there really. It was a bit kind of flat and, I don't know, frustrating. So you're watching it and you're thinking, right, we've really got a shot here, because City were playing well, but they weren't creating a hell of a lot. I know they hit the post with De Bruyne in the first half, but other than that, there was nothing massive. But yeah, it's so frustrating. We seem to go into our shell in these big games, and that can't keep happening. And Rashford and Bruno both had, Bruno was marked at the game, but Rashford had a stinker. When he's up against Zinchenko, who rarely plays for them. So, yeah, that's my take on it. What do you think of it?
It's frustrating, wasn't it? Because it's a very good City team despite all their injuries. So, I definitely didn't expect us to go out and dominate, but I also didn't expect us to just sort of roll over and die like we did. We didn't really offer anything going forward. I get the keeper made a couple of good saves for City in the first half. We didn't have a shot on target in the second half when we were chasing the game. That just says it all. But I don't want to dwell on it. It's one loss. I think it's our first domestic loss since we lost to Arsenal at the start of November, which is pretty good going, if you ask me. It's not been a hard run at all, but it's we're getting past the weaker teams now, which is what we used to struggle with. So I suppose there is a positive there. But if that comes at the detriment of beating bigger teams, which we for some reason can't do anymore, then you've got to be looking at it. But something I was interested to get your opinion on then, Henry, is we do keep losing these semi-finals, and the only big game that we've won under Solskjaer really was that Leicester game. I think it's fair to say, where we needed to win to get Champions League, and we pulled it out of the bag. But what is it that's stopping us? Is it a mentality thing? Is it an ability thing? Can we just not turn up in the big games against the biggest teams?
The biggest teams, when they're playing poorly, find a way to win. It's simple as that, and we don't seem to be doing that at the moment, and I can't understand it. The personnel out there yesterday were good enough to win that game. Genuinely, we've beaten City before with worse teams, and we seem to play this weird game where as soon as we're playing a big game, we go into our shell. But in the league, it's different. I can't understand it. Maybe it is a mentality thing of, oh my God, we're in a semi-final, panic stations. What do we do? Maybe it is kind of a mental block for some of these players, but Fernandes isn't, he's won stuff with Sporting before, so he knows how to win games. You've got Pogba there, who's won a World Cup final and performed really well in it. So you've got players under Mourinho, for example, with United, who know how to win trophies. So I can't see it being a mental block. I just can't. But we seem to go missing in these big games. And to be honest, I know people will disagree, and it maybe could have swung either way, but Guardiola did a number on us yesterday. And, the Fernandinho shot was fantastic. That happens. But they had the majority of the ball. They could have scored 3 or 4. And, they shut Fernandes out of the game. Fernandinho outplayed him. Simple as that. Just marked him out of the game, and whenever he got near the ball, remember that shot, the pop shot from Fernandes just inside the box. He had Raheem Sterling breathing down his neck within about 1 second. So he managed to get a touch and just get the shot away. That's how on it they were. They were ready as soon as he got the ball, ready, because they know that if we don't have him, we're in big trouble. So yeah, I'm frustrated. I can't lie, but I'm not as reactionary as people might think I would be after this, because it's not the end of the world, and I get that, and it is another semi-final gone. To me, this just makes the Watford game more important, and that's really annoying because we've got 2 big games after that coming up. And if we perform in the Watford game and don't in the Burnley and Liverpool game, we lose the Burnley game, and I'm not going to say our title hopes are over, but because you never know what can happen. But realistically, do I think we'll win the title this year? No. And do I think we'll win it even if we beat Liverpool away? Unlikely, because we go through spells of form where we're quite poor. And the start of the season was horrific. I know City were poor as well, but they can win with being poor. And when they're good, they're really good. Like Chelsea, they ripped Chelsea apart. So it's between them and Liverpool, I think. Once Liverpool start to get players back fit from injury, they're going to be a big trouble to the other sides around us.
Definitely. Now, just one more thing before we move on. Well, before we go on to that, everyone who's watching, if you got any thoughts on the game or what that means for our season, then do be sure to drop them in the comments. But Henry, I'll ask you the same question then. What does this mean for our season moving forward?
Honestly, I don't actually know, and this is weird because I think we'll perform in the league. We seem to perform against the lower sides in the league, so top 4 it's a must. If we don't get top 4, I think Solskjaer's gone, genuinely, because the owners pride themselves on getting those extra P's in the bank, don't they? That's what they pride themselves on. They want that Champions League money desperately. So top 4 is a necessity. It'd be nice to get to the final of the FA Cup, although when you start to get to the kind of higher end of that trophy, then you start to see bigger teams again, and the questions will be raised. Same with Europa League. But for me, Premier League has to be a priority. And if we can get top 2 or 3, top 2 would be great for me, because this squad is not good enough to win the league. And I know people will argue, wow, but we've beaten, since the Arsenal game, we've gone unbeaten. Draw against City, which they were poor and they didn't look like they wanted to go for it, and neither did we, to be honest. And the other games, I'm not going to say we've stat padded against the other games, against the other teams, because we haven't. But we've been playing sides that aren't in and around us, and the Liverpool game is proving to be even bigger now because maybe we're not ready. And I think this was a reality check yesterday for us. We got so high thinking, I see all these Twitter accounts, I know they go overboard just for the fun, get clicks and whatever, get likes. But, people saying, could we really win the title? And then yesterday was a bit of a, you're not ready. So for the rest of our season, I'd be happy with a top 2 finish and just put the kids out in the Europa League, to be honest, because I know people say trophy's a trophy. I'd rather win the FA Cup. I can't be arsed with the Europa League. FA Cup and getting top 4 would be good, and then hopefully we can build on this provided the owners want to invest some money in the club.
Fair enough. Well, we talk about investment then. We are officially now in a new transfer window. So, I want to know your thoughts on sort of one position and sort of one player within that position that you really want United to bring in this January. Sort of hypothetical, because we're United fans, we're realistic. We know nothing really is going to happen, is it?
Yeah, we've spoken about it with the episodes we've done before with Caicedo, and obviously we've got Diallo, or people might know him as Traore or whatever, but we've got him coming in. That's going to improve the squad. He probably won't go into the first team straight away. The reality is you can't do massive business in the January window anyway, because no one wants to sell their best players. So the Champions League clubs are almost out of the reckoning. They won't sell their best players midway through the season if they're through in the Champions League. Simple as that. Even Dortmund, who Sancho, he's lucky. I think he got a goal and assist in the last game or something like that, but he looked like he couldn't be asked anyway. So he'll leave in the summer. So you can't do a lot of business. I'd say that the youngsters are more of a priority to get in. If we don't get Caicedo, I will be a little bit pissed off. I'm not going to lie. And that's not because of we've heard that he's good or whatever. That's a position that we need to improve on. And it's a young player who's a brilliant talent, but we've got to get him. And we can't do this faffing around rubbish, because someone will pay the €5 million or £5 million or whatever they're asking for. Someone will pay that money, whether it's us or not. So we've got to get that deal sorted ASAP, or else we'll lose out on a really good player. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on what we should do this window?
I mean, like hypothetically, is a different question. I think that Caicedo deal is crucial because there's talk of him going somewhere else before he comes to United, so he gets himself ready. But I think that's very risky, especially from a United point of view, because, you know, what if he doesn't want? What if he settles in really well at this team and then someone else comes in for him? What if United drop off and he no longer wants to come to United? You know, you're throwing so many hurdles in the way by doing this. I mean, surely you just pay the $5 million. We're hearing from all the experts that it's meant to be a bargain. You pay the $5 million, then loan him out to one of these teams, something like that. Surely that'd be the option to go for. But I mean, I think hypothetically, I'm thinking maybe a centre back, because, you know, without Bailly next to Maguire, obviously we've seen again Lindelof and Maguire don't really click. Obviously they did all right keeping City quiet for most of the game, but, you know, the first goal, both of them just completely missed the ball from a routine cross in, and it's not acceptable at this level, is it, at all? It's such a avoidable goal. So I think maybe a centre back if you can get the right one in. Though I don't want you to rush into a deal and get the wrong signing. Maybe even if it's just cover for Eric Bailly, but I mean, a defensive midfielder would be nice. Obviously, Fred and McTominay do one man's job between them. They do one man's job very well, but individually they can't operate. Mm-hmm. But so I mean, if you can do, you got like Thomas Partey and the old N'Golo Kante, who would be one man doing two men's job. Yeah. Whereas now we've got two men doing one man's job. It's just not the right way around. So if you bring in a world-class holding midfielder, I think we'd be a lot more stable as well. And then I just want to see a little change in tactics, like a little tweak. I want to see, you know, a switch around of the front three. Maybe start Martial on the left, Greenwood up top, Rashford on the right. See how that works, because, you know, Greenwood came on yesterday and looked tidy. To be fair, I was surprised by him. I've not been impressed by him at all this season. I think he's been really poor, but he impressed me yesterday with a few things that he did. So I think you play him in his natural position, get him back in form, and he can be a real asset again. But, you know, we've got to get Donny van der Beek playing as well. I feel so sorry for the lad at the minute. He's been taken away from his boyhood club by, you know, big money. He was expecting to be a world beater, challenging for trophies at United, and we've just seen none of him so far. He comes on at 2-0 down with 5 minutes to go. What is the point? You're just mocking him at this point. So I want to see a lot more of him, especially if Pogba's on the way out. I think if he is as certain that he's leaving as we're hearing that he is, I think he's playing too much, if I'm honest. But yeah, I just want to see a little bit of a change of personnel within the team more than big signings. We definitely need to get Caicedo over the line and get the paperwork for Diallo sorted out, because there'll be big signings. But yeah, I mean, a Zakaria or a Konrad Laimer from RB Leipzig as a holding midfielder would be probably my ideal set of signings, but I don't see them happening at all.
No.
So,
well,
you know,
you've pushed a button there with me. You've pushed a button, and it's really wound me up, the Van der Beek thing. I'm sorry, it's really wound me up, that. So I saw a comment from Solskjaer yesterday, and I know you feel the same way about him, because he is a very good player. He's one of the best young talents, you'd argue, in the world. Fantastic at Ajax last season, and the season before he was a massive part of that Champions League semi-final side, and they could have easily got to the final. honestly, I know Solskjaer said, "Oh, you need to adapt to the English game." A player isn't going to adapt if you play him for 5 minutes every 3 weeks. I'm sorry, he's not, is he? You can't adapt in training because you're adapting to what are you adapting to? What the team do normally? He's been here he's been here since like September earlier, and he's had time to bed in because we've had a kind of continuance with football. It's always been going on, but this nonsense that he needs to adapt to the English game before he can play this, that, whatever. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, don't play him for 5 minutes because we paid 35 million for this guy, and we're playing him. I don't think we played him last week. And, when he does come on, it's after the 88th minute. I can't understand it. So when things are going wrong, this is one pet peeve of mine with Solskjaer, and I've mentioned it before. When things are going wrong, he keeps it the same. And I can't understand why he does that. So he'll wait to the 75th minute to make a change. Got 15 minutes to impact a game. That's nothing. So it usually takes a player about 5 minutes, to bed into the game, get used to the tempo, whatever. So you're giving them 10 minutes to make an impact in a game. That's nothing. And then, he's going after the game, I thought the lads played well. Well, yeah, some of them did, but the ones that were shit, you kept on the pitch for 80 minutes. McTominay yesterday, I'm sorry, this guy he was fantastic against Leeds, and I had so much praise for him, and he turned into this unbelievable player that no one had seen before. The last 2 games, he's been shit. He's gone missing. Both times he's played, he's gone missing. And, passing was way off yesterday. I just can't understand it. Him and Fred, they don't seem to be able to play together now after being so good a few weeks ago. I'm lost. I'm baffled. And why Van der Beek isn't getting a start in that side. Fernandes looked tired yesterday. He looked shattered. Like his legs were going. And then he's almost kicked out at someone as well. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Fernandinho or something. He's almost kicked out and got himself sent off as well. So, I mean, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on this because this Van der Beek situation is getting a little bit ridiculous for me. Yeah, I'd love to hear what anyone else has to say on it. But it's just not fair on him. It's not. He's joined the club to play and to win. And he'll get a start against Watford, but so will Pellistri. And so will Dan James. So, yeah, frustrating.
Got a comment from Hassan here saying, do you not think it's an overreaction from the fan base about the loss yesterday? I absolutely do, because I think I was seeing Ole out on Twitter yesterday, which is just absolutely ludicrous. And he's now saying the gap between the gap is certainly smaller between the two sides. And I think he's got a point. We weren't, battered like we usually were. We were in the game for long periods of the time, even though we didn't play very well. So I think there's definitely a huge overreaction, just purely from that Ole out thing, because I saw for the first time in a long time Ole out comments on Twitter. I don't know whether you did, Henry, but we United fans tend to overreact massively. It's not the biggest competition we're in. It would have been nice to win, but just briefly, do you think that the fan base has overreacted?
A fan base is always going to react, and I understand that there are going to be reactionary comments straight after the game because people are pissed off and whatever, and that's fine. And I put something out about it being a reality check, but I would never be like, Ollie needs to go, because, guys, we're stuck with him. We are stuck with this manager. He's done well for us the last few games, but Poch is gone. The only other person that's out there is Allegri, and I'm not saying. By the way, I'm not saying I want Solskjaer out, because that's not the case. I want what's best for the team, and at the moment we're doing quite well. So he's best for the team at the moment. They're clearly trying to perform for him. But yesterday was just such a massive, massive overreaction. And the problem I've got is there are people lying in wait for us to lose. Fans, so-called fans, that lie in wait for us to lose so they can put Ollie out. Genuinely. It's like they've had to wait for like 3 or 4 weeks to do this. And as soon as they do it, it just comes in a massive wave because we've lost. When we're winning games, you see half as many comments about Solskjaer, about the team, or people just genuinely happy. So yeah, Haas, you're completely right. It was a massive, massive overreaction, and I've said, and we both said this fan base is a little bit toxic. I'm not going to lie, because you've got two ends of the spectrum that are so big, and but there will be questions, and questions is fine because Solskjaer's got to answer to them because we've lost 4 semi-finals now since he's been in charge. So he's got to answer them by going and winning a semi-final and getting to a final, simple as that, and then winning a trophy. So, but yeah, huge overreaction, and really frustrating to see some of the comments because we win against Watford and Burnley, and people were going, well, okay, we can win the FA Cup, and we're now 3 points ahead at the top of the table. So, yeah, massive overreaction.
Yeah, Haas just amplifying what you've said there. The league's definitely a lot more important. But we'll move on to another thing that United haven't quite dealt with properly, and that's the situation with Sergio Romero. Now, we're hearing that he's told his teammates and staff members goodbye. Obviously, he's been our cup keeper since he joined in, I believe was it 2015, 2016? He's been here quite a while. He's 100% up until the end of last season, he was the best backup goalkeeper in the world. Now he's been left out to dry. He's not even in the Premier League squad anymore. So, what are your thoughts on the way that United have handled this situation with Sergio Romero?
It's nothing short of a disgrace. Genuinely. Well, I don't understand this. What's happened? I know we got Henderson back, but I know there was massive hype about Henderson. De Gea's got competition. De Gea's improved his game. Henderson so far has shown nothing special, really. I mean, we only say him for England because he's better than Jordan Pickford, I think. Pickford's got too many mistakes in him. Maybe not even better than Nick Pope, but we're looking at, a goalkeeper who's served us so well as a second keeper. And when he's played, by the way, he's performed. He's always performed, and he's always been, okay to be a second choice keeper, which maybe isn't so good. But we didn't let him leave in the summer. And that was, from what I read anyway, the move was blocked. Everton wanted him. I know it's a rival, I guess you could say. But seriously, we're now depriving him of like almost a year of his career just because we don't want to let him go to a team that maybe could challenge for top 6 or top 4 or whatever. It's unfair, completely unfair. I don't know who's made the call to just dump him out of the squad, essentially. Not in any squad. You've got Lee Grant ahead of him. That's a disgrace. It's a shame because he served us so well, and we've just, we've essentially just thrown him out like trash. It's embarrassing, and shame on the club and shame on whoever made that decision because that's just not right. Doesn't sit well with me, and I know it's business and whatever. Doesn't matter. This guy served us well, and we've treated him like shit this year, and it's not fair on him at all.
Yeah, listen, my thoughts on Sergio Romero are very clear. I mean, the guy was incredible for United. He even kept more clean sheets than he had goals conceded. That's an incredible stat to have as a backup keeper. The 3 semi-finals we reached last year, he played in all. We got to the semi-finals in. The thing with the problem was that Ole chose De Gea for the big semi-final games. Suddenly we lose them. Probably a coincidence, but it just makes you think, doesn't it? The only bad game from memory I can think of Romero having was 2 seasons ago when we got knocked out of the FA Cup by Wolves. Don't know if you remember that game. Jota ran straight through the middle, hit it straight at Romero, and it just went underneath his body, and that knocked us out. So I think that was the only time from memory I've been disappointed in Romero. I think he's been a constant professional. He's been an absolute model player. He's happy to sit on the bench and provide backup for this team because, whatever that says about his mentality, he's been a great servant to this club, hasn't he? He knows he's not going to challenge De Gea, and he's never really kicked up a fuss about it. So, I would stand by my statement that he's probably one of the greatest ever backup keepers the world has seen because, you don't have that many great backup keepers, do you? It's generally, you go straight from Alisson to Adrian, don't you, usually? So, That says it all. So I think, I really hope that he goes somewhere competitive and he puts whoever's decision it was to disrespect him. I really hope he puts him in his place with his performances. Say he goes to Atalanta or someone like that. I hope they do well in the Champions League and show United what they're missing, because I'm with you. I completely agree that he's probably on a par right now, if not better than Dean Henderson. His performance would say so. I don't think Dean Henderson has made a mistake since he's been here, other than that Sheffield United goal. So that speaks volumes to Sergio Romero's ability. The guy was unbeatable. He really was. So, he's not going to watch this, but sincere apologies from two United fans, because it's disgraceful the way the club's treated you. But moving on, one last topic to United getting some unfair treatment from a certain little manager that we barely ever talk about on this podcast, do we, Henry? It's Jurgen Klopp's comments about United and their penalties. Now, I know what my opinions are on this, so I'll ask you what yours are first. Just initially, what's your reaction to his comments? He's saying that United have had more penalties in 2 years than he has on 5. So that was an excuse after getting beat by Southampton, having one shot on target the whole game, picking up 2 points from your last 3 games. Is it him throwing his toys out the pram?
He's a dickhead. he's a dick. And I can't understand why managers do this. I know they want to rattle cages and whatever. And, Klopp's the first to try and influence referees' decisions. He is the only manager that I know that can scream at a referee on the touchline, constantly scream at him, berating the fourth official, doing the same with a linesman and not get a ban. He does it every game. And I know people say, well, it's passion. When Mourinho does it, everyone fucking kicks up. He gets a 50 grand fine or whatever. So I'm so done with this manager, man. I'm so done with Klopp. He's just I had a little bit of respect for him because, he reminds me a little bit of Ferguson, whatever. This guy's worse, I think. I know Ferguson was terrible, but this guy is worse. And he's bitter when they lose. I know he doesn't blame his players and whatever, but he's vindictive, snarky. He's just an arsehole. And the comment about the penalties, to me, I think that's quite funny as well, because it shows that we're rattling Liverpool, which hasn't happened in so long. That we're kind of out of the picture we have been for the last essentially 6 or 7 years probably. So yeah, this is he's just a knob, and it really does my head in when I see him making comments like that. This season, they've had one less penalty than us, I think. One less. And I saw Mane trying to dive for a penalty in the Southampton game. They are not getting penalties because they are blatantly cheating to get them. And people saying Pogba's wasn't. If you look at Pogba's from an objective point of view, there's clear contact. And it's a penalty. You can see Douglas Luiz stepping across. That's what VAR looks at. With Mane's supposed one, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Kyle Walker-Peters or something. Pulled out the challenge. He didn't have any contact on him. He took 2 steps and went down. Seriously, Salah as well. God, I cannot stand that guy. Any touch, not even a touch, someone will go and he'll just fall over. It's embarrassing. They are, as far as teams go for cheating and diving and kicking people, scum, genuinely. And I can't stand the manager as well, because he condones it all. It's like, oh yeah, Mo doesn't dive. When he feels contact, he goes down. Hold on a second, isn't that just what United players do? But the fact is, if you don't want us to get penalties, tell all the other managers to tell their players, stop fouling us in the box. No, it's simple. Just don't foul us in the box and then we won't get a penalty. If you don't touch, like Martial yesterday, I was a bit annoyed at him because he went missing for the whole game, but he also tried to dive to get a penalty. Oh, that's wrong. He should have got booked for that. But at the same time, he didn't get the penalty because there was no contact. you don't get a penalty if there's no fucking contact. It's simple as that. So don't foul us in the box. And then Fernandes won't be able to do his hop, skip, jump, middle finger up and send the keeper the wrong way. Simple.
Fair enough. What I will say about what Klopp's done is I think it's brilliant from a man management point of view. I think it's genius. We saw Fergie do it a lot. It's taken away from the player's performance after such an abysmal performance. Whereas you see Mourinho, especially at United, after a poor performance, he'd sometimes single players out and go, right, it was your fault that we lost in the press. Whereas Klopp, 2 points from 3 games is unacceptable for reigning champions, and yet you haven't heard him say one bad word about his team. So the players must love playing for him, because he really is, in that sense, he's a genius, because all the media focus is now going to be on, Klopp doesn't like how many penalties United are getting. It's not going to be on, wow, look how bad Liverpool's form is. It gets us talking about what he said. It's worked. What he wanted to do has worked. We're not sat here talking about how bad Liverpool have been the last couple of weeks. We're sat here talking about how Jurgen Klopp is crying about penalties. So in that sense, he's an absolute genius, as much as it pains me to say it. So, it's annoying. You take the comments with a pinch of salt, because, yes, we've been awarded the most penalties, but we've been awarded the most penalties in an era where technology has been brought in to improve the refereeing. So we've rightfully been given those penalties, whereas Liverpool had the most penalties in the Premier League before VAR. So what does that tell you? It just means that they're now getting less. They're now getting less soft penalties. But Jurgen Klopp will be Jurgen Klopp. He's a genius. He's frustrating, but that's my piece on him. So unless you have anything else to add.
If we don't beat them next week, I don't know. A point is fine. We've got to beat Burnley.
If we beat Burnley, a point's fine. I'm happy with a point.
But if we get taken apart by Liverpool, people will start to throw their toys out the pram. And the frustration is going to be, our season could go from everything to nothing in the space of 2 weeks. And I know that sounds really reactionary, but I think that's kind of true, in terms of, if we get knocked out of the FA Cup, if we get knocked out of the Carabao Cup, and if we lose to Liverpool, or we lose to Liverpool and draw to Burnley, or we don't get, not maximum points, don't get 4 points from those games, then things are looking a bit, not bleak, but things are looking completely different to what they did, last week, where people were saying we could do the treble or whatever, which is nonsense, because it's not going to happen, even with the Europa and the Premier League and whatever. But yeah, it's gone from that to, hold on a sec, we might not actually win anything. And yeah, as I said, Solskjaer is judged on trophies and will be judged on trophies. And if he wins them, I'll be delighted. But if he doesn't, then every semi-final he loses or cup game he loses, that's one more black mark to his name and the more borrowed time he's on, personally, I think. Definitely. Well, our next 2 league games are away from home, and we are, so far domestically, we've been phenomenal away. So that gives us a bit of hope. But that's all we had planned to talk about. So I think we'll wrap it up there, unless you've got anything to add, Henry. No, just keep supporting as much as you can. We appreciate it all, and like, subscribe, and try to keep positive during lockdown, because Boris has had a mare again. I'm not going to lie, he's had a shocker. So if you're disappointed about United's performance, just think about Boris, and think it could be a lot worse. Yeah, definitely. No, it's worth saying as well, it's probably not going to mean much to anyone, but if anyone is struggling with a lockdown, mine and Henry's DMs are always open on Twitter and stuff like that. But on that note, we'll call it a day. So as Henry said, we're so close to 100 subscribers now. It'd be amazing if we could hit that. So if you can support us in any way, then we'd massively appreciate that. But without any further ado, we'll wish you goodbye. We'll hopefully have another episode coming up in another few days, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.
Manchester United are the champions.